today's topic what we are going to see is the 11A, the national movements. How did the nationalism got inspired in India? See, the Indian story is different when compared to the Italian story or the German story, where nationalism was brought by some ideas or ideologies. But here we have different section of people, different caste people, different religious people coming together and fighting the British, the mighty empire. And that too, ever since in the world, we see the Indian history fought with a single man and a weapon, that is non-violence. So how was the journey of Indian freedom struggle started? Who brought this inspiration for the Indians? The true Indians or the people those who served for the British and they brought inspiration to the Indians? So moving into the Indian national movement, the Indian national movement has been divided into three different parts. So the Indian National Congress or the fight of the Indian freedom struggle has been divided majorly into the moderates era, the extremist era and the Gandhian era. These three divisions again are categorized into the periods, like it's from the initial period of 1885 to 1905, it's from 1906 to 1919, and this is the final stage from 1919 to 1947 till the attainment of Indian independence. How did the people gather here? See here, the moderates are the people, those who have the ideology that we have to do everything through petitions and writing letters to them, writing letters to the Queen, requesting them. Their method is to pay and request. They beg everything and they request everything to get the required data or the required measurements or required changes in the system. And they finally done everything by appealing through letters. Even Gopalakrishna Gokhale, who was considered as the Guruji of Mahatma Gandhiji, belonged to the moderate group. Then moving on to the extremist group, these people never believed in any peaceful petitions method. These people believed completely on the ideology of throwing bombs, creating terror, making the Britishers to afraid by killing them. In this way, they started to do this one. Bose, Subhash, all these come under the category of extremist groups. And moving on to the main extremist group, we have Bhagat Singh also falling under the extremist group. And then we have Gandhian era. Gandhian era is a period from the arrival of Gandhiji into the politics and taking the leadership of the Indian National Congress, and from then how the various movements were led under the leadership of Gandhiji, and ultimately how he was successful to bring freedom for India from the Britishers without restoring himself to any kind of violent methods. His weapons are satyagraha and non-violence. In this way, we have this history. In the first chapter, we are going to cover the first two parts of the period. It is from moderates and the extremists. How was the history earlier to the moderates? What was the foundation for the formation of the Indian National Congress? How did the leaders frame it? Who brought the basic idea that India needs something attention from the entire world? We will find all these things. Now let us move on to the Indian national movement from the grassroots level. So the Indian national movement was earlier started in the period of 1857, where most of them have active participation during this period. That's why it's rightly known as the First War of Independence. Let us see here how many of them have participated during the First War of Independence. It is like the soldiers who escalated that one. Then it moved on to the ordinary people, peasants, artisans, landlords, princes, queens, kings. Every corner of India started to agitate against the British rule. Yes, it was not successful, but it initiated the movement that yes, we can fight against the mighty British Empire. This has given the inspiration, and this inspiration has driven them for the another 90 years to acquire and fight against the mighty British Empire in order to achieve our freedom struggle. So after 1857, we have the development of the national consciousness in all the people. the people started to analyze the situations. This is because the growth of English education. The English education was introduced in India by the Britishers, and in major cities like in Kolkata, then in Delhi, then in Mumbai, most of the educated people like who have learned English started to study about the French Revolution, English Revolution or the Glorious Revolution, then the American War of Independence, then the nationalism spirit in this Italy, Germany. All these things have moved the people towards the nationalism. These educated people started to spread the ideologies of equality, justice, liberty, and all these concepts. When all these concepts were into the brains of the people, people started to question the injustice, the inequality principle, which is being run by the Britishers in the nation. So these are the initial stages of the nationalism after the first war of independence. We have second innings for this, which has escalated the movement further. It is not only in India, even in abroad, we have the people started to think about India. Yes, of course, they are Indians who stayed in abroad and they started to form associations to help and think about the Indians. Let us see what are those. Now, moving on to the second half of the 19th century. As during the second half of the 19th century, many of them started to acquire the English education. These people started to get the knowledge of English language. After they acquired the English language and they referred the world histories and famous revolutions, they started to compare the policies. The educated Indians started to compare the British rule and the British policies, and they started to become critical towards the British rule. What made them to become critical? Because after analyzing the British policies, we can clearly understand that the Britishers are not considering Indians on the equal stand. They are just considering as mere normal low or slave people who doesn't have any basic knowledge about the rights, rules, regulations or any policies. It's like everything is done in the favor of the policy makers, not towards the policy followers. So this idea was done because of the educated Indians have brought this ideology outside. So in 1866, we have an association called East India Association, which was established in London by Dadabhai Nauroji, who brought this initiative that to think about the Indians, like what is happening in India, how to fight against the British rule. Then in 1866 to 1885, many of the leaders like Sarvadaman Banerjee, M.G. Rande and K.C. Telang and Subramaniam, all these people started to think and start various organizations at various places, and these united the intellectuals in the entire nation. Though these people have started to work at various corners of the world, especially in India in context, like north, east, west and middle, but these people could happily connect with the intellectuals of the other parts of the nation, and these people started to nationalize the zeal and the spirit what they had, and they want the democratic setup of a modern nation and not simply just following the policies which are framed by the foreign rulers. So did these people achieve their aims and achievements? Were they successful? Let us see that.